This is the round ahead, thanks to Coles, Nat Edwards, Josh Gabelich and Chad Wingard with you. Josh, 9 games of footy. Did it fill your cup at the weekend?
Absolutely it did. Fantastic to have a full round of footy and so many storylines. Coaches under pressure already.
We love it. Now, you would be up and about after Friday night, Chad.
2-0. No complaints from me.
Don't get too cocky and ahead of yourself. Well, let's take a look at what is on the menu ahead of round 2. And it's a big night for the Dogs on Friday night, celebrating 100 years in the VFL-AFL competition. The Power will be looking to respond after their heaviest defeat yet under coach Ken Hinkley. And on Sunday, well, the D's and the Roos are going head-to-head, and the final game of the round is an absolute cracker on Sunday. Will the Swans go 0-3 to start the season? It is a big question. But let's get started with Thursday night footy, thanks, of course, to Coles. And it's a wounded Carlton coming off a shock round 1 loss to the Tigers, and they're facing off against the in-form Hawks. And Josh, Star Blue, Charlie Curnow, we see him there. A welcome return to this forward line. He's been through a fair bit since we last saw him in August.
Absolutely he has. It's a big inclusion for them, but he has had a really interrupted off-season and pre-season when you consider he had an ankle reconstruction back in September. Then he had a knee arthroscope in the middle of December. And then, Chad, he had a bolt removed in the middle of February. So he's barely been able to string a month of training together. He's done the last 2 weeks. So he's a huge inclusion for them. Clearly a star of the game, a 2-time Coleman medalist, going to add a lot in the front half. But it's going to be a massive matchup when you consider James Sicily and the addition of Tom Barrass and Josh Battle.
Yes, and what I think is going to happen is he's not going to fix everything, right? Curnow's not going to come in and mark every single ball. So what Carlton need to do, they need to find more avenues and more angles to actually get more marks, lower the eyes. And what I'm really looking forward to the most is the fact that when Curnow coming in, Mackay will be able to help out in the ruck, which means Cripps doesn't have to be second ruck, which is outrageous. I mean, he looked a little bit tired. He did get a lot of hit-outs, but I think it's going to save him. I think it could have been a difference if he wasn't rucking in that game.
It's just a waste of his talent and his energy, isn't it, when they really could be using him to move that ball and do what he does best. It was very strange.
Yeah, and it tires him out. Like, you're wrestling. It's not what he's used to. And like, so he's going against Nankervis there, like a guy who's
a beast.
He's a beast, and it tires him out. So it stops him from having more impact on the ground. So I'm looking forward to seeing him being a pure midfielder this week.
So Carlton had 65 inside 50s to Richmond's 40 way back on Thursday night last week, but they failed to capitalise and make the most of those entries. So Chad, you mentioned lowering your eyes before. Is that exactly what they need to do when they're going inside 50 against the Hawks?
I think it starts back in their back 50 as well. So it's making sure that they get the ball out of their 50 quicker. So their actually transition speed is going to be a lot better. They're winning a lot of clearances, but they need to make sure that, look at the numbers in the screen. There's 17 Richmond players. They need to make sure they're looking for the short ones. Even just changing an angle can create a different look going inside forward 50. But it's also winning your one-on-one battles. Miller was dominating last week. He had so many marks. You just can't allow, like that kick, you just can't allow kicks going offline, and I don't think they're very predictable, and I think that's got the hardest part about Carlton going forward.
And Josh, the hard thing too is if you're Carlton and you're just bombing it into that forward line, you're kind of playing into the Hawks' hands, aren't you?
Oh, you certainly are. James Sicily's been making a masterclass of that for years. He's an All-Australian for a reason. I'm intrigued to see how Sam Mitchell uses him this week, because he's been moving him forward, back, across the first 2 rounds of the season. I want to ask you about Dylan Moore, Chad, because this is a guy that became an All-Australian for the first time in 2024. We know the story. Delisted in 2020, revived his career, become a legitimate star and a vice-captain of that club. Does he get the love he deserves? Because what he did last Friday night was sensational.
Well, what I think matters is he definitely gets the love he deserves internally. They love him. He's obviously the captain, also vice captain for a reason. He's been in the leadership group, and his story is immaculate. Like, he is well loved because he's hard work. He works so hard up and down, and that's what it's based on. So he's obviously got a lot of skill. He's improved his game, but I think it's based on hard work and a lot of stuff that's happened over the last few years. But he's an absolute star, and yeah, hats off to him. He's an absolute ripper.
We've got a milestone man too in this game. Jarman Impey, your good mate to play game 200. Just give us a little bit of insight into Jars and what he's like around the club.
He always gets voted, when you think about love, we have our pillars that we set our team on, and love aspect is always Jarman Impey. He wins it from 90 to 1. Like, he's an absolute star, and he's a very loved applicant of the club, and I think, again, I wish him all the best. 200 games is no easy feat. He's an absolute star.
Josh, just to put a little bow on this game, do the Hawks need to be wary of a very wounded and angry Carlton outfit after that performance in round 1?
I think it's a good point you make, Nat, because they were awful. I thought they were the most disappointing side in round 1. You could mount the case for Fremantle, of course, because of that 78-point loss, but when you consider up against Richmond and all those kids and the lack of expectation around them, we need a response. Michael Voss needs a response, and I think we might see one come Thursday night.
Now, the last thing anyone wants to do is anger Carlton fans any more than they already are, but this was too good not to show, and it is, of course, Seth Campbell's goal celebration after that. I mean, he'd run so far, it was late in the game, to be able to have the energy to do that. Chad, how many hamstrings would you have done?
I think I just done a hamstring just watching that, but absolute freak. How crazy is that?
It was unbelievable, wasn't it, Josh?
It was special, and I'm glad he pulled it out because it just fit the moment, because they were so exciting because of their youth.
Yeah, so Seth Campbell's backflip actually got us thinking about iconic goal celebrations. So we've put together a top 5 here on the round ahead, starting with number 5, 2012 Anzac Day. Dane Swan criticised in the lead up to this game about his weight. Well, rubs the belly there, won the Anzac Day medal, 42 touches and 3 goals, if you don't mind. Very, very nice performance from him. Josh, number 4.
Oh, I love this one. I mean, again, a bit like Dane Swan, reacting to the media narrative, building into a massive game, and look at that. Don't forget what happened in the build-up to that elimination final, and that was his response.
Chad, number 3.
Yes, Akermanis tight on the boundary, and what I love about this, it's not preempted.
No.
Look at the reaction. He was as shocked as I was. Unbelievable. And you know it's iconic when it's replicated, right? Look at this from the grand final, same spot, same team. Look at that, unbelievable.
Now, number 2, I absolutely love because there's such a storied rivalry in the mid-2000s between West Coast and Sydney. Mickey O goes wild there because he put his team in front, 1 point ahead late in the qualifying final, gets right up in the face of those Eagles supporters. It was that raw emotion that I absolutely loved from him. But number 1 for us here is James Hird. In the lead up to this game, Bombers 0-2. He called umpire Scott McLaren a disgrace. He feared he was going to be deregistered by the AFL, and he's run straight to Drew in the front row there and given him the biggest hug. Just the emotion behind that, Josh. It was a pretty special moment.
It's all about the context. It's all about the backstory, isn't it? That's what made that memorable. Oh, it's hard to split the top 2 because
I would have had Mickey O just ahead.
Yeah, that just reminds me of our childhood.
Yeah,
Don't you think? Like, that rivalry was just iconic, and that celebration was beautiful.
Shout out to Drew Petrie and Frank the Tank. I really pushed hard for that to get in there, just missed out. What do you love about a goal celebration? Is it just like the rawness and the authenticity, or is it the ones that are scripted beforehand?
He played it cool from memory.
Yeah, I know. We needed more from you.
Well, the top 2, obviously we like similar things. It's the raw emotion, but it's actually the state of the game. Yep. Both those goals were match-winning goals. And I think that's what I love. It's raw emotion. It's not planned. It's like, wow, this was a really important game, a really important goal.
You did let loose in a showdown at one point, didn't you?
Yes, and again, it was a last goal of the game, so it was a let loose, and like I said, it's a pretty fun thing to watch, but it was a raw emotion, adrenaline running through the veins.
All right, to Friday night footy now, and it's a big week for the Bulldogs, who celebrate their 100th year, I should say, in the VFL AFL competition. They're actually going to be renamed Footscray for this entire week. They take on Collingwood at the MCG, and Josh, I mean, this club has been through so much over its 100 years in the competition. As we take a look at the tape at pre-game, they've got a special ceremony to, I guess, celebrate the history.
They do, Nat, and they're led out by one of their favourite sons in Bob Murphy. He's back at the club in official capacity in 2025, and we're going to see some iconic names involved before that first bounce on Friday night. I'm talking Calvin Templeton, Simon Beasley, Gary Dempsey, Tony Liberatore, Scott Wine, just a few Brownlow medalists, of course, and then Brad Johnson, Rowan Smith and Lindsay Gilby, some more modern names, plus some coaches. Don't forget the likes of Terry Wallace and Rocket Eade. So it's a mix of everyone. It's going to be a phenomenal night.
I mean, they had their financial struggles as well. The club nearly folded twice in its history, but managed to regroup, and here they are years later.
Well, aside from that special month in 2016, no period in the club's history sums up them as a football club than 1989. Now, at that time, they were dead broke. They were almost going to fold. In fact, the VFL CEO at the time, Ross Oakley, I spoke to him this week for a piece that'll go up pre-game. He actually gave them two options. Either merge with Fitzroy and become the Fitzroy Bulldogs or lose your licence. And what that resulted in was a galvanising of not only a football club, but an entire Western region. There was the tin rattling campaign. Then there were these iconic stickers.
I love them.
Up Yours Oakley symbolises that period in that club's history. And they ended up raising $1.6 million in the space of 3 weeks due to a young lawyer at the time called Peter Gordon, a very famous figure in that club's history. And when I spoke to Ross, he told me that he still sees these stickers every day because his very own son has one on the back of his car.
He's trolling his dad.
It's incredible. I mean, can you imagine Andrew Dillon going through this right now in 2025? I just can't fathom it. But Ross did say he got death threats. His kids were persecuted at school. He needed 24-hour security for the best part of 3 months to deal with this. But it ended up being an iconic moment in that club's history.
Now, they are going to wear a special Guernsey, of course, for this 100th anniversary. A little bit of gold trimming on there. But, Chad, I was so disappointed. No collar.
I know. I am a sucker for a collar and a long sleeve, and I'm spewing that it's not on there.
Yes, that would have been nice. A little bit of nostalgia. But look at that. That's going to be absolutely fabulous when Footscray meets Collingwood on Friday night at the MCG. It is going to be a fantastic match. Now, we are debuting a new segment on the round ahead this week. It is Chad's time to shine. Wingard's winners. And what have you got for us? A little bit of a Crows slant this week.
Yes, look out. Jordan Dawson is the man. We're just going to go through the evolution of the great man.
Oh, I like it.
Yeah, so started in Sydney, was a defender, got traded to Adelaide Crows in the 2021 season and became a midfielder on a wing. And for me, the moment that stands out when I think about Jordan Dawson was round 3 of his first season at the Crows. It was in the showdown of all games. After the siren, 45 out, on an angle, the city on his shoulders. Unbelievable. Against Port Adelaide, just seals it. And look at everyone running to him.
Like Adelaide home showdown as well.
I know.
He's an absolute star. And I think what sets him apart, that even just in his first year, he had an unbelievable year. Second year at the club, becomes the captain.
Unheard of.
Unheard of. And I suppose that just speaks to his leadership. And I suppose he's a real barometer for the team. But I think with his ability now to go forward, what do you think, Josh, that adds to his ability to potentially be a Brownlow contender?
Well, I think it's a good point you make because he's got history. He polls quite well. He polled 20 in 2023 when he became an All-Australian for the first time, when he won his first Malcolm Blight medal. And then last year he polled 18 votes when he won his second best and fairest in a row. So I think if he can add more goals to his game, like he did on Sunday with 2 first up, we could be talking about him by the end of the year as a legitimate contender. But I just love the addition, Chad, of Isaac Rankin in this mix. The midfield's evolving, but when you add Rankin plus Dawson in this rotation, it's look out.
Yeah, I agree. And you see from the clips here, Dawson's ability to go forward and take marks, he's 190 centimetres and he's quick. He's not getting chased down here. Kicks a goal from 70. But what is, I suppose, scares me if you're an opposition team is the fact that he can go forward and get on the third tallest. He's 190. He's going to outrun him. He runs up and down the ground all day. And like you said, who's going to benefit the most? Who do you think?
It's Matthew Nicks, I think, this year because it's a huge year for the Adelaide Crows now. We know that, but what a new mix it's going to be, and it really does lead into a great Saturday afternoon game.
Yeah, it really does. I mean, how do the Bombers stop that dynamic duo of Isaac Rankin and Jordan Dawson? Because they are splitting their time, aren't they, between mid and forward? They're not doing that sort of switch like we saw from Dusty. But just talk us through, maybe will we see that?
Well, I think once they get some continuity between these two, I could actually see Rankin coming up to the stoppage and spitting through, similar to what Dusty used to do and Graham used to come up to the stoppage. So Jordan Dawson, at the moment, he's just playing forward and then Rankin on ball, and then they just switch during play. So it's not like they're doing any kind of deals as such at the stoppage, but I can't wait to see if they do get tied down. But obviously Rankin, it gives him the ability to get up the ground and get more involved.
Yeah, one to watch for sure. Something else that's one to watch, Josh, is Adelaide's record at the MCG because they have a hoodoo. They need to get off their back in this game. They are 0 from their last 11 appearances at the MCG. Can they get the job done or are they going to walk away empty-handed once again?
Well, Nat, they hate us talking about this because this is the power stance curse. It dates all the way back to 2017, of course. But if you look at their last 3 or 4 visits to this ground, they've actually performed quite well. They've lost 3 of those games by 4 points or less. They should have beat Collingwood last year. Isaac Rankin hurt his hamstring quite late in that game, of course. So I think they're going to come and get the job done and finally end that MCG hoodoo.
Well, if you are looking for a hook this weekend, then look no further than Sunday afternoon, the final round of the game. It's Fremantle hosting the Sydney Swans at Optus Stadium. On the one side, you've got the Swans, who are 0-2 to start the season. And then you've got Fremantle, so much pre-season hype around them, only to turn up at GMHBA Stadium and get obliterated by the Cats in round 1. And the pressure is certainly mounting on their coach, Justin Longmuir, and probably off the back of these comments in the pre-season.
We played a pretty vanilla brand. It's interesting because all the other teams get the vision and be able to watch it from behind the goal, so we tried to keep it pretty vanilla.
So Chad, as a Freo fan, you might be sitting there going, okay, so that was vanilla footy, can't wait for round 1, and then that's what they served up. You'd be pretty cheesed off, wouldn't you?
You would, and you can't just flick a switch. You've got to make sure you practice this. You can't just go, round 1, we're going to bring all the weapons out. Obviously, we saw it didn't work. And obviously, as fans, you'd be pretty spewing and thinking, you actually putting the players in a spot where they're like, oh, we have to actually do something that we haven't practiced. I don't think it's fair on the players, but I think, like I said, hopefully this week they can bring out that exciting footy.
That's what surprised me at the time, Chad, because why waste... You've got 2 practice matches. Why waste one of them? Because you're worried about opposition teams working out your structures and your systems.
Well, it doesn't make sense because you've got 24 games that you're going to watch. Like, I don't think you're going to hide
Nothing
what you're doing.
Coaches.
Nothing surprises them. I mean, and just to come out and say it is probably the strange point for me. Even if you think it, you don't need to say it. I think you should be pumping up the players that you just did, the additions, how you're going to be better from last year.
So Swans tagger James Jordan kept Lachie Neale, Josh, to 10 touches in round 1. It begs the question, who might he head to on the Fremantle side of things this weekend?
Well, Nat, if we think back to the end of 2023, Sydney brought in 4 players. He was the lowest profile recruit, but he's had such a big impact in his first year and a bit at the Swans. Came 8th in the best and fairest last year, and he is racking up the scalps when you consider the tags. I mean, he got Whitfield last year, Stewart, Dacos, Dawson and Lachie Neale in round 1. But last year, he didn't go to Hayden Young. He didn't go to Caleb Sarong. He didn't go to Andy Brayshaw. He actually went to Jordan Clark twice and clamped him. So he can go to a halfback flanker and shut them out of the game. So that would be my tip on Sunday night.
Okay, well, the last time these 2 sides played, it was an absolute cracker. It was at the SCG and the Dockers who got it done. Who could forget Logan McDonald having a shot after the siren to try and win this game? Didn't make. I mean, that, Chad, it's a tough shot. As a forward, do you want to be in that position, or is it too much pressure for the young fella?
I'd love to be in that position, maybe 50 metres closer. I don't think I've got the legs in me. Again, with the hamstring, it's probably going to go.
I know, that was pretty tough. So hopefully we're in for a similar finish. It would be a thrilling finish to round 2. All right, let's get you boys over to the screen now. Get up and about, because when it comes to the Rising Star, it does look like a wide open race. And Josh and Chad, you are both going to run your eye over the contenders.
Well, Nat, one of the key findings from round 1 was this year's Rising Star class, Chad, is a Melbourne Cup field. It's absolutely stacked. It's why the Rising Star panel had such a big decision to make on Monday when it came to the round 1 nominee. Sam Lawler got that, of course. But who, by the end of the season, will be this year's Rising Star?
Well, like you just said, I can't go past the number 1 pick. He was the number 1 pick for a reason. Sam Lawler, 18 disposals, 2 goals, 2 goal assists. And I think what sets him apart is that he's not playing much midfield minutes at all. So he's not getting, I suppose, the amount of touches. 18's still a lot, but the impact he's having in just those touches is unbelievable. See that mark there? He's getting at the top of his jump, and the celebrations, like he's an absolute star. And I don't think we've seen the tip of the iceberg of what this player could be.
Coming off an interrupted pre-season, of course, so it's hard to argue with any of that. I'm going to take a really safe option here. I'm going to go with Levi Ashcroft, pick 5 last year, father-son pick. He came exactly as advertised at the SCG. Bit of a late inclusion. He was supposed to start as the sub, came into the 22 and had 25 disposals and just looked cherry ripe from the start. And when you consider how deep that midfield bats, I think he's going to get a lot of protection in his debut season. And his form as an underage player has translated straight to the top. He found so many disposals at Brighton Grammar, at Sandringham Dragons, at Vic Metro and with the Academy. So he's my tip. But I have to say, I'm a little bit surprised you weren't seduced by the performance of one Murphy Reid on debut at Cardinia Park.
Yes, Murphy Reid, 4 goals in 6 minutes. Stuff that you dream of, right, as a forward. The only reason I didn't go with him, I think that's pretty hard to sustain as a start, but he's an absolute star to watch. One to watch, and like I said, you couldn't ask for a better start.
Pick 17 for a reason, of course, last year. Now, Melbourne supporters, you must be screaming because we haven't mentioned Xavier Lindsay. We haven't mentioned Harvey Langford. Those two are going to be clearly big contenders the longer this year goes on. And so will North Melbourne young gun Finn O'Sullivan. The Kangaroos always have a rising star contender. But Nat, I want to ask you about someone from last Friday night because Isaac Kako had a phenomenal start to 2025.
I am low-key obsessed with Isaac Kako. I found myself not watching the Hawthorn game at all, but just watching Isaac Kako and his running patterns and everything he did. It was Cyril-esque at times. So I am very excited, and I would be too if you are a Bombers fan. Chad, I just want to ask you quickly just about this Richmond-Port Adelaide game because we're talking about Sam Lawler and we'll see him again. But realistically, could this young Richmond side cause another upset?
Well, they can. I'm not going to come up and say they can't at the moment because everyone who rid them off last week was wrong. I think it's going to come down to momentum and making sure that they, keep that energy. But coming into Port Adelaide, the Portress, as we would say, it's very tough to win there.
It is tough. It's tough at the moment too for their coach, Ken Hinkley. The pressure is certainly on. The succession plan between Hinkley and Josh Carr has been thrown into the spotlight once again. And this was a little bit of a byplay between Ken Hinkley and a reporter during his weekly press conference.
But have you been surprised about the fallout, the narrative, quickly it was about how bad the loss was, but then, it goes to you, Josh, all that, the succession plan, everything like that. Are you surprised that it's already kind of come to round one?
Is that what you're asking me? That you're asking?
No, I guess that was the kind of what people were saying, that's what people were commentating on, you're surprised that it's come after round one already.
If they are asking that question, they can ask it to me directly. What question do you want to ask me?
I guess, is it, how do you feel it's going? After, is there any confusion amongst players, coaches? Yeah, that's, I guess, the question.
I think we've been really clear on that. There's absolutely no confusion.
You hate to be a journo when the coach goes back at you. We've all been in that situation. Chad, you know Ken well. Is he feeling the heat a little bit? I mean, I like that he stood up for himself.
No, I don't think he's feeling the heat. I love it, though. I love him. I love the way that he deals with the media. And Adelaide's a small town and he's had the heat on him for a long time. But what he's done for Port Adelaide shouldn't be underestimated. He's been an absolute pivotal part in getting them to where they are now.
Now, before we go, Josh, I know you are a signed-up Tassie Devils member, and last night they launched their new mascot. So meet Ramen, Tassie slang there for an odd or eccentric person, maybe an odd or eccentric Tassie Devil mascot. It has been designed with input from school children. Josh, do you like it, your new mascot?
Oh, it fits the mould, doesn't it? It's a Tasmanian devil. It makes a fair bit of sense.
Is it a Tasmanian devil?
I don't know. It looks
Chad,
a little bit like a school
like?
project.
Well, if you whack at it, maybe some lollies might pop out. That's what I see.
It feels like a pinata, doesn't it?
Maybe that's their pre-game.
I'll be real with you though. Like, my 5-year-old would be petrified of this mascot. She would run away screaming. It's no Siggy from the Sydney Swans. Siggy is by far the best mascot going around in the AFL. That is it for another edition of The Round Ahead. I hope you've enjoyed the show. Make sure you tune in again next week and we'll see you soon. Enjoy the footy.